Prasun Gajri is also joining us this morning. Prasun, good to have you with us. Let's just talk about the kind of environment we're seeing currently, and given that sentiment seems to be at an all-time low, how are you looking at things? Are you seeing any silver lining at all, or how long do you feel we're going to be stuck in this zone?
To be honest, very difficult to see any silver lining at this juncture. Pretty much all the data points are still looking weak to negative. Effectively, all the growth indicators, high frequency indicators, whichever way you cut it, it's not looking too good. Having said that, I don't think there is any reason to be very, very negative as well, because a few things which have gone right over the last few months will start bearing results as we go along. So one is clearly, I think the monsoon has been pretty good. The reservoir levels are pretty decent, so we have had good sowing, and we would have a good sowing in the Rabi season going ahead given the reservoir levels. So from agri sector point of view, I think that augurs well, number one. Number two, I do sense some transmission of rate cuts going through the system. That again is positive news for the system as a whole, because cost of funding is expected to come down slowly, gradually, but definitely yes. On top of that, we have the festive season coming up. So that should also help the consumption part as well. So a few steps taken by the government on top of this would also add to this. So my view is that some of the indicators which are still looking weak could start looking better maybe in a quarter's time. And this entire despondency which we are seeing at this point of time, where everything is looking weak, may not be the story as we are, say, 3 to 4 months away from now. Having said that, are we seeing any full-fledged recovery coming through? The answer is no. We will see gradual, slow recovery from current levels. We could be bottoming out, but not expecting any V-shaped recovery or a very sharp recovery, but a recovery nevertheless.
Okay, so recovery nonetheless is what you're seeing. Talk to us about the kind of time frame, Prasun, because are we now looking at an incredibly long-term horizon in moderate returns? Is that the new normal, perhaps, that investors need to accept?
If you want to really talk about a full-fledged recovery, I think we're talking about a slightly longer time frame, because my own sense is that a full-fledged recovery depends on the investments picking up again. The corporate side investments are not really happening given the demand situation. The government side of investments is a little bit kind of constrained given the fiscal issues. The household is kind of still waiting and not really investing on the real estate side. So put all this together, I don't see a reason of investment cycle picking up in right earnest very, very quickly. So that will happen in due course as things progress. So what we'll see is more of a sequential recovery, a little bit of consumption pickup, a little bit of this low growth in the base and pick up from these levels. But otherwise, if a full-fledged recovery requires the investment cycle to pick up in my view, and that will take a little bit more time. To put a time frame to it, sitting here today, very difficult, but our sense is that at the margin things will improve, and we will start seeing some data points which will indicate that improvement.
Okay, Prasun, so what's the recommendation out there to clients and retail participants who are looking out for opportunities right now? Do you think it's the right time to maybe hunt somewhere in the mid caps, or would you say that one is safer buying at beaten down large cap names, or even those blue chip classic compounders which have come off from the top?
See, at any juncture one has to have a balanced view. However, at this juncture we would be focusing a little bit more on the large cap names, because in a slowdown environment the mid caps tend to suffer more, both from a stock price perspective as well as from the balance sheet perspective. So we clearly focus more on the large caps. Having said that, senses that at this point of time, I think over the next 12-15 months, it's a good accumulation time. One should not be rushing in with all the investments very quickly, even if one wants to start dabbling in mid cap. So I think slow and steady, keep picking it up over the next 12 months or so. It's like more of a slow kind of an allocation improvement to equity side. I think that is what would be a better way to really approach the equity markets rather than going whole hog into mid caps at this point of time. Overall, focus still remain large caps for us. Continue to watch the mid cap space very closely. We'll see when to increase the allocation, but at least at this point of time, we are a little bit wary of increasing those allocations.
That's interesting. Prasun, just wondering what is it that one can do when it comes to some of the beaten down spaces, autos for instance, because many believe that the story for passenger vehicles is over because this is a structural change which is in place. And many believe that looking at perhaps two-wheelers, which are going to be able to adapt to the electric model pretty soon or sooner than the passenger vehicles, should make a decent investment case in the recent decline. Would you also believe the same?
No, I would not. I think we are just overreacting to this slowdown. There's a little bit of cyclicality to it, maybe some structural angle to it as well, but I do not buy the point that the cars will not get sold or there will be a significant structural slowdown in the car sales going forward. As far as the EVs are concerned, yes, that is a concept which is there to stay. But my sense is that it is more suitable to three-wheelers, maybe two-wheelers in the Indian context, because the charging infrastructure will take its own time coming. And from a PV's perspective, the car's perspective, I think it's a long way off as far as pure EVs are concerned. We could see some mix, some sort of a hybrid things coming through, but at this point of time, I would not be writing obituary of ICE PVs at this juncture. Nor do I believe that there is any structural reason to say that the younger generation will not be interested in buying cars and it's no longer an aspiration. I think that's just an overreaction to the current slowdown, and things will improve as we go along.
Prasun, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us.